I'm Kat.
And I'm Hayley.
And this is Night Classy, a tipsy night class teaching the oddities and curiosities you never learned in school.
Powered by Thirst for Knowledge and Boxed Wine, we cover the most fascinating lessons in history, science, true crime, pop culture, and the paranormal.
What are we drinking for this learning journey?
Well, I broke out a White Claw, actually, and it's 1:13 p.m. where I am, so I'm a little bit early.
I wasn't going to drink, but then last night, Alec and I bought these. It's a Simply Lemonade hard lemonade. And listen, this is the best thing I've ever tasted. It is so fucking good. I'm not even kidding. Alec's laughing at me, but I'm obsessed with this. It's carbonated, but like it's lemonade, but like it's not too sweet. Like I hate Mike's Hard lemonades. I think they're disgusting. And this is like half as sweet as a Mike's Hard and tastes way better.
Yeah, I was going to say Mike's Hard Lemonade kind of has, I feel like, a monopoly on the market for canned drinks that are lemonade. I mean, they own White Claw, but maybe White Claw does have a lemon. Yeah, that was a brain train I went on a couple of weeks ago, but that's awesome. I can't wait to try it. I didn't know those were even a thing.
It's really good. We got the variety pack. There's watermelon, blueberry, strawberry, and plain. This one's just a plain one. I haven't taken a sip of it yet because I've been drinking a Cherry Coke Zero, but I'm going to start drinking it right now, and it's so freaking good. And
you're just mixing all the freaking carbonation. You're so bubbly. We're trying all these new drinks for summer. I just love this season we're going into.
I know. Well, I've been so bored that like literally any kind of excitement I can bring to my life, which usually just means buying different things at the grocery store, I will take it. And this was a good decision.
That is the most adult thing I've ever heard. We just got done talking about how you just got a new couch, the first one in your adult life. But even you saying I get fun from buying new things at the grocery store, I think that tops on the adult scale. I think it tops new couch.
Yeah, I would not say it tops new couch because a new couch tops everything. I struggled so hard because I had like 2 weeks where we didn't have a couch and I'm not working because it's summer break. And so I would literally stay in bed all day.
Oh my gosh.
Because it's been raining here. It like storming every single day. I can't go outside. Alec's gone. And the only place to sit in our apartment was our bed. So it got super depressing. And now that we have a couch, I have one more location in our apartment to sit all day.
I can be depressed on the couch now, not in the bed.
Exactly. I know. You need to come home because I've been lonely.
I know. I've realized that after like 4 days, I think, is my max traveling alone. And it's been great. My days have just been packed with seeing old friends, seeing family, doing this, doing that. But I'm ready to be home. This has been way too much.
When do you come home?
Tomorrow morning.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy. We should do something tomorrow. I don't have any plans. Actually, you probably want a day to rest.
Yeah, but you can come over and help me rest.
Okay, I can do that.
We can rest together. We can be proactive, start our next week's notes.
Yes, I do need to do that. This week, I spent literally all week doing research because I had nothing else to do. So my topic this week is really good because literally worked on it like a full-time job for a week. And that's pretty embarrassing to admit, being that like it's just a normal like 5-page lesson. But I think choosing it was the hardest part. I spent a lot of time choosing my topic.
And it's nice when you have the time to do that. I really like the lessons that are like that and really well researched, because as full-time teachers during the school year, we don't always have the time to put, we spend a lot of time on our research, but it's always nice when you can put in that extra time. That's like Carl Tanzler and his Corpse Bride. I think that was one of the lessons that I just love doing so much because it was just the ultimate deep dive because we were on fall break.
Yeah, you read a whole ass book for that. And then it cracks me up in the TikToks, like people in the comments trying to like check you on things. And it's like, bitch, you watched a YouTube video. Hayley read an entire book.
Right.
Shut
and I
up.
don't usually read books, at least not like that. I'm all like, how can I get better with my finances? Not like, let me hear about the Corpse Bride.
See, that's where we differ, because the only books I read are crime books.
We are truly...
I've never touched a self-help book in my life. And you can probably tell by looking at my life.
We balance each other, I'll say that.
Yes, we do. Also, I just want to plug our cocktail hour. We had that recently, was that last Friday?
Yeah, it was.
Okay. Wow. I can't believe it's been a whole week, but that was really fun. Thank you to everyone who came. We had a blast. Hayley's been out of town this week and a very busy impromptu trip. But she was able to make a cameo, which we appreciated.
Yeah, I'm so mad. The Wi-Fi was non-existent. I'm at my dad's house right now, and I was honestly worried about recording this virtual session because it's been iffy. But weird. Yeah, when I popped in, I felt like I was interrupting a party. Everyone, the conversation was flowing, and I was pissed I couldn't stay.
I know. It's so fun. Our cocktail hours have turned into literally my favorite thing ever. I look forward to them every month. You guys, our Patreons, have become my friends, and I love you guys. Thank you.
I love you guys too. So if you're feeling like you're missing out, there's a very easy solution. You can pop over to Patreon and get not only access to our live cocktail hours, where even sometimes we have little special drinks that we make and tell you all about, so we can all drink the same drink if you drink. But we have extra episodes, our old substitute teachers. You get a discount on merch depending on what level, and you can even pick an episode topic, and those are always fun. So thank you all for supporting us and supporting the show.
Yes, thank you. And are you ready to start?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, well, we are not in the same place, so we didn't breathalyze, but I went first last week, so do you want to start us out?
Yeah, I can do that.
Sweet.
Okay. So I'm going to start by reading some blurbs from a case report from Karate University Medicana, Faculty of Medicine. I think it's in Turkey. A 30-year-old male patient applied to our clinic with a complaint of long-term headache episodes. The patient presented with a pulsating headache on the left side of his head, which lasted for approximately 24 hours and usually occurred once a week in the form of attacks. During his headaches, nausea was accompanied with photophobia and phonophobia. The patient stated that the objects around him appeared to be larger than they actually were, and his fingers appeared to be smaller than they actually were.
Is this Alice in Wonderland syndrome?
It is.
Yay! I've started researching this before too.
I cannot wait for the day that we cover the same topic. I mean, it might take us 10 years of doing this podcast, just statistically.
We've come so close. This is one I've looked up before. It's a good one. I'm excited to hear more.
Okay, so you know about this already, I'm sure.
Barely.
But he reported all these visual distortions, and they would continue for almost half an hour. Besides his mother's and his sister's history of migraines, there were no significant characteristics in the patient's background, and his psychiatric examination was normal. And like you said, he was diagnosed with Alice in Wonderland syndrome. And the best way I can describe it is, it seems like you're tripping on LSD without taking any drugs, is what all these case reports talk about. And in the videos I watched, they're yeah, it's basically that. Just no drugs. Typically, there was one case where a guy was a heavy LSD user, and when he wasn't doing it, he would get these, for about a year, he had these episodes where he was tripping, but it cleared up over time.
Yeah, is it possible to do so much acid that those pathways in your brain or whatever happens, your brain just starts doing it without the drugs?
I think that's what this sounded like to me. I don't really know the science behind it, but I don't know also if this is a myth or not, but I always heard that if you do acid enough, then it can get settled in your spine. And then if you crack your back a certain way, it releases the drugs.
What?
Maybe that was just a small town Ohio, don't do drugs.
Yeah, that sounds like what they'd tell you in PE, during the drug unit.
Yeah, it does. So that's probably not true.
Like a glow stick. You can just like pop right into it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You like stumble out of the chiropractor like you're drunk or something because you can't stand upright.
Maybe that's why all the crunchy people like the chiropractor.
That's probably why. I do love the chiropractor. Yeah. I need to go back because adulthood got me fucked up.
I'll teach you how to pop your own back.
Oh, that scares me. That actually really scares me. I don't know why. I just feel like I'm going to break my back and sever my spinal cord.
I love it. The first thing I do every day is pop my neck on both sides.
Okay, I can't do that if I like lean this far. Okay. Yeah, I just did it now too. Yeah. Or like turning like this when I'm doing my yoga, it'll crack. Mm-hmm. I want to get those chirp rings. They're different sizes and you can roll your back on them. That's what I really want to get. Maybe I'll do that for Tommy's birthday and then I can just use them.
Get him something you want. It always works out.
I think that's the best way to give someone that you live with, whether it's your partner, brother, whatever, as long as you can use it too.
I know. I always want to get Alec like kitchen gadgets for his birthday, but then I feel bad because I'm like, this is like, he's just going to think this is a gift for me, but it's not because like we always cook together.
Yeah.
But it would also be a gift for me.
Tommy's ex-girlfriend did that. There's so many little appliances and things that she got for him. But then she had to leave them behind. So
sucks to suck.
Anyway, sucks to suck. Sorry about your immersion blender. I love it. All right. So the people who suffer from Alice in Wonderland syndrome, they're experiencing all types of hallucinations, whether it's visual, auditory. Most people that suffer from this are teenagers. And the second highest population that suffers from this are children. It's very few adults and older grown people. And other experiences report time distortion, even sensory hallucinations, like someone is holding you or grabbing you.
Oh,
which is super creepy.
I wonder if like some ghost experiences can be explained by this.
Probably. Who knows? And researchers have yet to find a cause for this condition. Some sufferers, they think that past head trauma and viral infections could be the source. And these bouts can last 10 seconds to 10 minutes, typically. And they end up just going away over time as the patient gets older. It's this really random, bizarre condition.
I thought you were going to say 10 years, so I'm glad it's just 10 minutes.
You're just tripping for 10 years. Oh my gosh. I would go insane. And a lot of these people have cited feeling like they're going insane, which...
I mean, yeah, obviously.
So Alice in Wonderland syndrome is bizarre, yet a very real condition. And Alice of Alice in Wonderland is also a very real person. So we're going to be talking about her today.
Ooh, I didn't know she was real.
She is real. She was born May 4th, 1852 in Westminster, England. She was the fourth child to Henry and Lorena, and she grew up around the grounds of this church where her father was the dean of. And she met this guy one day who the family ended up growing a bond with and they were close with. His name is Charles Lutwig Dogden, also known as Lewis Carroll. And he studied mathematics at Oxford University, but he was highly skilled in photography, but eventually got most of his success from writing. So Lewis was 24 years old when he met Alice Liddell and her sisters. And we know a lot of their experiences, or at least his experiences with them and the Liddell family, because we read this man's damn diary. We went through that whole thing, and it's been studied. And an entry from the day that he met the Liddell sisters said that it, quote, held a special significance for him. He was outside drawing the cathedral, and the little girls were playing out on the lawn, and he's drawing this, but he also is taking pictures. So it's like 1856 or so. And he has a camera, but it's not like they were out on the ground a lot. Like, they existed, but you weren't seeing that every day. So the girls were naturally inquisitive. They were drawn to this man with this strange technology he was using, and they go over to talk to him. He ends up forming a relationship with the Liddell family and was hired to photograph the girls. It was seemingly super fun. He had all of these like props and costumes and a studio. And at this point, Lewis was more famous for his photography than his writing. And several years after meeting the Liddell family on July 4th, 1862, Lewis took the girls out in the boat. So Alice was 10, her sisters were 8 and 13. While he was out, Lewis kept the girls entertained by telling them fictional stories. And in one of them, the main character was named Alice, which naturally the real Alice super enjoyed.
Yeah, imagine being the other sister and just being like,
yeah,
you a bitch. What's the other sister's name?
Her sisters' names were Edith and Lorena. Lorena. Yeah, and I'm like, at least they couldn't be side characters at the very least. I'd be pissed.
I'd be pissed too. Or like give them their own story. I don't know. That seems really also sus. I don't know. Seems like he's giving her too much attention.
Oh, you just wait.
Oh, God. Okay.
You just wait. Yeah, this is not a fun story.
Oh.
So anyway. Alice really liked it, though, at the time. She enjoyed it so much that she begged Lewis to write down the tale so that she could read it over and over and over again. And that was the origin story of Alice in Wonderland. And Lewis Carroll had a lot of young female, quote unquote, friends.
Oh my fucking God.
Yeah, it's not good. There's a scholar who studied Lewis Carroll very closely. His name is Martin Gardner, and he noted that Lewis would meet young girls all over the place, whether it was on the beach, on trains, through other acquaintances, and then he would become their friend. And out of all the little girls Lewis befriended, Alice Liddell was his favorite. I think you can tell just by the way he entertained her, I think, the most, and made his story about her and didn't even incorporate her sisters. And even when she got married later in life, Lewis wrote to her, quote, "I have had some scores of child friends since your time, but they have been quite a different thing." Ew. And I hate child friends.
Yeah.
No.
That just reeks of disgusting.
Yeah, and Lewis was just a weird and creepy guy for a plethora of reasons. He was a walking creepy detail, okay? And biographers have spent a lot of time examining the relationships Lewis held with these young subjects because he would highlight them in his writing, in his photography, in his paintings, and most of the girls were between 10 to 15 years old. They found a lot of his work to be missing as they went back to study him, but the photographs that they did find often shows undressed or partially dressed portraits of girls.
Like their actual photos?
Yeah, he
drawings?
Would paint and photograph.
Okay.
And before he died, Lewis wrote, quote, "A girl of about 12 is my ideal of beauty form."
Ugh.
Disgusting.
So he's just not even trying to hide it.
No. And everyone knew, and it wasn't a weird thing at all back then. We will get to like the thing that societally they were finally like, that's weird. But no, it wasn't weird. And during the Victoria era, apparently also wasn't rare for children to be undressed and depicted on postcards, birthday cards, works of art. It was considered to be like a brand of chastity and purity, which I don't know if that's almost a rewriting or a falsifying, like, oh, this child is depicted so pure in their natural form, if it's just like a secretive way for pedophiles to have twisted the norms.
I mean, yeah, if we didn't sexualize children as a society, then sure, like there should be nothing wrong with like a child being naked because they shouldn't be sexualized, but creeps like this do sexualize them.
Right, so, and they should be protected.
Yeah.
So it's obviously not the same way we think of it now, but it wasn't rare for children to be scantily clad in these works of art. We don't have any definitive proof as to what Lewis's motivations were. I think they were definitely more on the sinister side, more self-serving. But there's definitely enough evidence to suggest he was a sleazeball and he was a creep bag. One of his most famous pictures of Alice Liddell was taken when she was just 6 years old. And she's posed as this like beggar girl. And I don't think I can share my screen. You can probably just Google Alice Liddell, Liddell, or do like beggar portrait. And this image is widely considered to be just creepy. She's like barely clothed. It's nothing shocking, at least to me right now, like 2022. But he has her like posed with her hand out and she's giving this look. Like, I don't know how much posing went into it. But right now it's just one of the pictures that people are like, did you really have to like dress her in this like ragged dress?
Yeah, her dress is kind of like a slipping off her shoulder, like
very suggestive.
She's posed kind of flirtatiously. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't look like how a little girl would stand normally.
Absolutely. And she's 6 years old. For many, this picture leads to, I mean, I think it's uncomfortable to look at.
I think so too, because she's posed like a grown woman.
Yeah, and I think that's it. It's not like she's fully like naked or anything, but it's suggestive.
Yeah.
And Lewis was also not concerned at all about his affection levels for these young girls. He did not care. He once wrote to a 10-year-old girl who had sent him a lock of her hair. He said, quote, "Extra thanks and kisses for the lock of hair. I have kissed it several times.
Ugh.
For want of having you to kiss, you know, even hair is better than nothing."
Ew.
It's disgusting. And I take back my previous statement that there's not good enough evidence to show like what his intentions were. Definitely sinister, definitely inappropriate, creepy, disgusting. He should not have been allowed to interact with, I mean, he probably should have been locked up.
Yeah.
So Lewis's letters were regularly sprinkled with what would now be considered incriminating statements, these creepy ass details. And in a different letter to a woman, he was writing to her about visiting her young daughter. I don't know how old she was in the picture. She looks to be about 13 or so. But when he's writing the letter to the mom, he basically calls the mom a third wheel. And he says, it would be de rigueur that there should be a third to dinner. One-on-one is so much the nicest.
Oh, yeah. Let me take your child on a date. It's just nicer for me.
And I think it's so telling that not only did he want to just take the daughter on a date, but that he specifically said to the mom, like, he's priming her to let him take her 13-year-old daughter out to dinner.
But,
like he's just so straightforward with it.
Like, it's not even, like, as a mom, wouldn't you be fucking pissed? Like, that's...
Yeah, I'd be like, one-on-one is not the best, especially with my preteen daughter. Fuck off.
And, like, how dare you tell me I'm third wheeling with my own daughter? Like, fuck you, dude.
I know. But that was the vibe. It's like these men got away with so much shit.
Yeah.
And I guess they still do. But definitely easier and different back then. Gertrude Thompson, an artist and friend of Lewis's, she illustrated some of his books. She also received a letter from Lewis, and in that he said, quote, "I confess I do not admire boys in pictures. They always seem to need clothes, whereas one can hardly see why the lovely forms of a girl should ever be covered up."
Gross.
He's like, get rid of the boys. There's too many boys in your illustrations. I want to see naked girls.
What a freak. And nobody had a problem with this?
No. That's the thing that blows my mind. It's like, I was just thinking about like Jimmy Savile Seville. I don't know how to say his last name, but he was that guy in the UK who Netflix just released this documentary about like a month or two ago. And it just goes through how for most of his life, he was abusing children and being a complete creep. And it just went under everyone's noses because he was like the fun uncle to everyone.
That's how they get you. If an adult wants to hang out with children that are not their family, like, I mean, I get liking children. I don't want to like make this a blanket statement, but like, I feel like most adults don't want to hang out with children in their free time. Like, I love kids. I'm a teacher, but I'm not going to call up somebody else's kid and ask them to go hang out with me. That's such a red flag.
No. Especially when you have more kid friends than adults. Yeah. That is the biggest red flag.
Definitely.
So it's the same thing as like Jimmy Savile. Lewis was the fun uncle. People considered him widely to be kind and to be generous. And even in his obituary in the London Daily Graphic, they said, quote, like many bachelors, he was very popular with children and very fond of them.
Like many bachelors? What?
No.
No single man I know wants to hang out with a bunch of kids. Like most bachelors.
Even
are they using bachelors as like a code word for pedophile?
Yeah, they must be. Like many bachelors, he was a pedophile. Yeah, it's just mind-boggling. And I know that it was like 150 years ago, but that's not that long ago. When you really think about it, I know crazy shit has been happening for a long time, but I don't know. I just hate it. Lewis's nephew, his name was Stuart Collingwood. Stuart took notice of how many children his uncle was, quote unquote, friends with. And his nephew wrote a biography on Lewis, and he dedicated 2 full chapters about these girls. And this is the first bit of evidence that I've seen that someone was like, that's weird. Because in these 2 chapters, his nephew noted how Lewis would regularly hug and kiss the children and how he just spent a ton of time with these children who he considered his friends. And the thing that gets me that I wish we could get the truth on was that there's no concrete evidence that he harmed any of them, but I think almost undoubtedly he did, if not physically, surely emotionally, and, you know, kind of making them think that attention from an adult in that form is normal.
Yeah, I would say almost certainly he did. Because, I mean, think about how hard it is for victims to come forward now. Imagine you're a young girl in the Victorian era and this guy's in a position of power and you haven't been educated on sex or like what is and isn't like an appropriate touch. Like, I would say for sure he was. And just like no one had like the power or the language to accuse him.
Absolutely. So although there may not be definitive evidence, I think it's almost, 99% chance he I'm sure, abused some of these kids. I don't know how he couldn't, especially as we go on. I'll read more of his quotes. And upon dissecting Lewis's diaries, biographer Morton Cohen believed Lewis was usually left feeling disturbed and had trouble sleeping after visiting with Alice Liddell. He believed Lewis got these feelings out in his writing, including Alice in Wonderland. So in one of Lewis's diary entries, he wrote that he was, quote, afflicted by the inclinations of his sinful heart.
Well, there you go.
So he knew.
Yeah.
He knew it was wrong. And apparently he managed these emotions by doing math.
I mean,
I'm just trying to find the parts that we can have a a break from all of this abuse and inappropriate behavior.
Yeah, when I want to distract myself from my sinful inclinations, I just, do some...
I do some calculating.
Yeah.
Do my taxes.
Memorize theorems.
I balance my budget. Yeah, these calculations helped him combat his, quote, unholy thoughts, which torture with their hateful presence. The fancy would fain be pure. So he's having these dirty thoughts. He's surely acting on them. He's hanging out with children. And when he can't hang out with the children, he's doing calculations to take a fucking load off. Apparently.
It's like, how many children can I abuse before I'm caught? That's his calculations.
That's his calculations, yeah. If I had a better math brain, I would try and make up a calculation that would be funny, but I don't. All I know is like E equals MC squared. Yeah. So from the time he started working from the Liddell family until 1863, so like a decade or so, Lewis spent time with the little girls almost every single day. But something happened in 1863 which damaged the relationship between Lewis and the Liddells. And we still don't know what happened that day. He was an avid writer in his diary, but the diary page from that day was cut out.
Probably because he was caught molesting the girls by their parents. That's my bet.
There's some theories. I almost don't think, because they did reconcile the relationship. So I don't know if it was like, I don't know how they would have reacted in that time. If it was just like a slap on the wrist, if he was molesting them, like, don't do that again. Yeah. But we can still be friends.
People protect abusers all the time. So I wouldn't be
I wouldn't
too
put it
shocked.
past them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for a time, he wasn't hanging out with them for several months. And biographer Florence Becker Lennon speculated that Lewis was interested in marrying Alice, who was 11 years old at the time, or one of her sisters. She thinks that maybe it was a proposal that was a cause of this rift.
That would make sense. I mean, It doesn't make sense that he would propose that, but it would make sense why he would
why it would be an issue.
Yeah, why it would be a problem.
Yeah, even in the Victorian area, it was frowned upon to ask a child's hand in marriage.
They're like, wait till she's 14, dude. Like the rest of us. God.
Yeah, just wait 5 years until she's 16. Then you can marry her.
Then it's A-okay. Just kidding. No, it's not.
No, it's absolutely not. I would highly recommend. I'm not even 30 yet, but I think it's definitely best to wait until around that age to even consider getting married. Because you change so much in your 20s. Yeah. I look back at pictures from 2 years ago when we moved into the house that we just moved out of. I'm like, wow, I've just learned so much about myself and have a totally different style, for example.
My hair looks so much better than it did back then, is what I always think.
Yeah, me too. It was when I was wearing my hair curly, there were some days where it looked bomb, but most of the time it was just a fucking frizzy mess, especially in Memphis heat. So we learn, we grow.
We live and we learn.
Live, laugh, love. So eventually the Liddells and Lewis reconciled their relationship, but Lewis didn't really spend a lot of time with them after that. He does the next year, though. He gives Alice a handwritten copy of Alice's Adventures Underground. That's what he named it initially.
Okay.
I hate it.
You hate it? Why?
I don't know. Just something about the underground.
It's very to the point. She went down a rabbit hole and had adventures underground. That's the book. That's
true. I'm leave a little bit more to the imagination, I guess. So the next year, Alice was 12 years old, and Lewis wrote that she had changed as a person.
She hit puberty.
She got boobies, and she started getting annoyed with Lewis, as you would. I'm sure she was annoyed with him long before then, but the older she got, the more annoyed Alice was with Lewis and his obsession with her, which is totally fair. he photographed Alice one last time when she was 18 years old, and she looks so annoyed in this picture. I don't know if you'll be able to find it. I'll show it to you later, but she's just basically looking at him like glaring. She's not happy. And in her teen years, Alice actually met Queen Victoria's youngest son, Prince Leopold. Some say they fell in love, but were forbidden from marriage since she's not royal. She's just the protagonist of this massively successful literary novel. But others think that Prince Leopold was actually interested in Alice's younger sister, Edith. Finally, she's getting some of the limelight.
Go Edith.
But Alice... I know, finally. They all end up with their proper pairs. Alice ends up with this cricket player, Reginald Hargreaves. Prince Leopold ends up marrying a German princess, and they had a daughter together who he named Alice.
Wow. Bet his wife was pissed.
Alice named her son Leopold.
Oh, so there you go. They were in love.
Definitely in love. I think it's just so unfair that she couldn't marry in and become a royal. Like, all of that's just made up.
It would have been such a good Hallmark movie.
Oh my gosh, yes. Like the girl who had a creepy family friend gets to go live off in a castle and never see him again and be with a prince. I also really like the name Leopold. I don't know why.
And then Alice in Wonderland could have been a Disney princess. Like, she's often grouped in with the princesses, but she's not a princess, but she could have been.
She could have been. She was that freaking close.
Yeah.
What could have been? Well, Alice's husband dies eventually, and in order to support herself and her children and just maintain the household, she sells the handwritten manuscript that Lewis gave her. And that, I guess, was valuable enough at the time. She was able to support herself and everyone and maintain her home. In a letter to her youngest son, Carol, which is also interesting, her youngest son's name is Carol. That was Lewis Carroll's last name. You know, she swears it was a coincidence.
How? Like, that makes no sense.
How is that a coincidence? And also, he most likely was, in one way or another, he was abusing her.
Yeah.
So, like, why? Maybe it's like a Stockholm syndrome type thing.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. But in this letter to her son, she wrote that she was tired of being Alice in Wonderland. So it was fun for a while, but as it went on and as it got popular, she was just kind of over it. And then she died in 1934.
So she never saw the movie.
She never saw the movie. No,
Bummer.
I mean, it was a huge sensation even back then.
Yeah.
But I think it really shows how much, like, people young and old love the story of Alice in Wonderland. And even today, there's been so many variations and films and all kinds of things. So I don't know if she would love it or hate it.
I mean, it is a great story.
It is a great story. I wish we could get to the bottom of Lewis Carroll.
Me too. I mean, I don't know if I want to see the bottom of it, but I feel like we can assume pretty safely.
Yeah, I think so too. It's just so crazy how these people who can be highly regarded. I guess that's just how it works. If you have that charismatic factor to yourself and you have the talent, like you said, predators are protected.
Yeah, and I mean, people with power get away with shit because they have power. It's a never end. It's a tale as old as time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So that was the depressing story of Alice in Wonderland. My sources are The Real Alice in Wonderland. Lewis Carroll had an unusual relationship with by Weird History. Who is the Real Alice in Wonderland by Brad Witter on biography.com. Alice in Wonderland Syndrome Case Report from Carity University Medicana, Faculty of Medicine. This syndrome will make you question what is real. Alice in Wonderland Syndrome by the Infographics Show. And was Lewis Carroll a pedophile? His photographs suggest so, by Lorena Munoz Alonso in artnet.com.
Well, thank you for that learning journey.
Thank you.
Let's hear from our sponsor. We'll be right back.
This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. So the other night I was laying in bed trying to go to sleep and I hear a sound from the front of the house. And immediately my anxiety brain goes to, oh my gosh, the cats have accidentally done something to hurt themselves and I have to go save them right now. But thanks to therapy, I was able to talk myself down and really break apart why my mind immediately went to that thought and reassure myself that surely my cats were not hanging by the rope of the TV or the wire of the TV or whatever intrusive, scary thought that my brain immediately went to. And I know that without therapy, I would have jumped out of bed and gotten myself completely woken up to go check on the cats to find them totally fine. They were just cats being cats. But again, it's all thanks to therapy. I've learned skills that help me in my everyday life to ease my anxiety and just help me have a healthier, happier mind. And that can be difficult to do, but the good news is that therapy works. And whatever you need, it's time to stop being ashamed of these normal human struggles and start feeling better, because you also deserve to be happy and not jump up in the middle of the night because you think that your cats have accidentally injured themselves. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. Join the millions of people who are seeing what online therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are your greatest asset. And special offer to Night Classy listeners. You can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/classy. That's betterhelp.com/classy. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast. And thank you, listeners, for using the code CLASSY. When you use that code, it helps the show and keeps it rolling. So go get your therapy on.
Hello.
We're back, baby.
I hope you enjoyed hearing from our sponsor.
You always do.
Now you can hear from me.
I'm excited to hear about this thorough research.
I mean, I don't want to hype it up too much because it's a regular research, but I did spend, for some reason, I just could not decide on a topic this week. I started research on, I kid you not, 8 different things, and I couldn't make up my mind. Because when you start reading about something and you read about it for so long that it becomes boring, and then you're like, well, everyone's going to think it's boring, but it's only because you just spent an hour reading about it.
Yeah, it's a real struggle.
That just kept happening.
Yeah.
It is. But I found something I think you'll like, so here we go.
All right, I'm ready.
In 1924, Alvin Shipwreck Kelly was dared by a friend to climb a flagpole and sit on top of it. Alvin was a aerial stuntman. You already have thoughts. Let's hear them.
I mean, you shouldn't be doing dumb shit like that when your name is literally Shipwreck.
Well, he was a stuntman. So, he had a reputation of, doing dangerous things. And he also claimed to be a survivor of the Titanic. So, whether or not that's true, it's probably not. But, he has this kind of, badass persona, which I guess is why he thought that he should sit on a pole. He's sitting on top of it. He took the dare and sat on top of the flagpole for 13 hours and 13 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah. So a long time. This stunt ended up gaining an extreme amount of attention, and Kelly was able to go on tour. He would sit on flagpoles around America and charge commission to watch him sit on a flagpole.
Wow. They were so bored.
That's what I was thinking. It was a wild time. You could be like, okay, let's go watch the grass grow, and people would be all about it. He wasn't performing anything. He was literally just sitting on top of a pole for a long time, and that was the entertainment.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think it would be kind of entertaining. This is going to make me sound like a psychopath, but it would be interesting to watch someone survive falling off of a flagpole.
Yeah, like if he could like jump off of it, like do a few flips, land on his feet, that would be fun. He wasn't doing that.
Yeah, I would be there for the off chance that he fell. Am I a psychopath?
That might have been why people watched. And in your mind, like when I first read about this, I was picturing him just sitting on top of a pole. But at least, I don't know if it was the case at first, but at least as like this went on, like he'd be sitting in like a basket on top of the pole. Like he had like a little chair up there. So it was a little more comfortable.
Yeah, gotta get the snacks.
He did have snacks. He was often hired by companies to bring publicity to their businesses. For example, if you were having a movie premiere, you might hire him to sit on top of a flagpole in front of the movie theater for like the week leading up to the movie premiere to get attention. Kelly's career peaked in 1930 when he set a world record by sitting on top of a 225-foot flagpole in Atlantic City for 49 days and 1 hour.
What?
Yeah. He would just live up there.
That's a long time.
It is a long time. To keep himself from falling while asleep, he would tie his ankles to the flagpole. He would do normal things like shave his face up there, brush his teeth. Food and drinks were raised up to him with a bucket and pulley. His favorite thing to consume was coffee and cigarettes. And he did also use the bathroom while up on the pole by a small tube that ran from the top of the flagpole down to the ground and into a hole.
I just love the idea of this being the most miniature studio apartment in open air. And he's like, this is my pee hole. This is my poop tube. And
I can't hear what you said because you cut out, but I'm going to assume you said this is my poop hole. And I am confused how he was able to poop into a tube. That sounds like it took some practice to get there. Kelly was not alone. He did have competition. In 1933, Richard Dixie Blandy broke Kelly's pole sitting record. Blandy was also an accomplished pole sitter and had even been struck by lightning several times in his career.
Jeez, okay, that's insane. I'm sorry I interrupted you, but
no,
I really did not expect him to have a competition. They need to start having competitions for important things, like who can pass the most legislation for healthcare and things that matter.
Yeah,
not sitting on poles.
We'll get into it a little bit, but the competition thing is key here. There were so many stupid competitions in the 1920s. So these guys were competing, and Blandy sat for 125 days. In that time, he drank 92 bottles of whiskey and smoked about 375 packs of cigarettes.
I mean, how do you... I feel like that makes it more impressive that he's staying on the pole with all that whiskey.
He drank almost a fifth of whiskey a day. Or maybe they were smaller bottles. I don't know. But yeah, somehow he was able to stay up there. And I mean... I'm not saying you should distract yourself with alcohol, but you're probably so miserable that, I mean, it makes sense that he would want to be drunk all the time. Sounds like it was awful. And he was up there getting struck by lightning. So can you really blame him?
No.
Kelly and Blandy were the pros, but there were a lot of other pole sitters out there, both professional and amateur. It was an entire fad, and it did not stop there. Like I said, in the 1920s and 30s, people were obsessed with endurance contests. Basically, how long could you do something for? The modern Olympic Games had been introduced just a few decades earlier, so this idea of setting a world record was new and exciting. There was endurance swimming. In 1928, a woman named Miss Austin paddled around a pool for 32 hours and 20 minutes for the title of Women's Swimming Endurance World Champion.
Oh my gosh. I've said this once, and I will probably continue saying it, but man, things got weird in history when we weren't worried about survival anymore.
Yeah, it's so true. As soon as we all didn't have to farm our own food, the possibilities really opened up, and we didn't use them appropriately.
Yeah, all this stuff, this pole sitting is like planking in the tens. That's what that was. Or like parkour.
Literally, one of the articles I read started with like, you thought planking was weird? Like, have you heard of pole sitting? And I was like,
oh
no.
my gosh. I love how unoriginal my thought process is.
Or you have the mind of a journalist.
Oh, but not the writing skills.
In August of 1930, children in San Bernardino started the trend of tree sitting. Children all over the city sat in trees from August until school started on September 15th. And then they all had to get down and go to school.
Kids, that is not the way to spend your summer.
No, but
don't do that.
Their moms were so happy. They're like, okay, yeah, just go sit in a tree for 3 weeks. Get out of here.
Yeah. She's like, hey, honey, I'm glad you're on day 2 of tree sitting. I got you this pulley so I can deliver you snacks once a day. I'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye.
Truly, I think that's really how it was. The children were just completely feral.
Yeah, that is actually great for the parents.
Yeah. In 1935, Corinne Neustadt wanted to see how long she could be buried alive for. She spent 192 hours in a metal coffin 8 feet underground. She was fed food and water through a tube and charged spectators 10 cents to view her tomb.
Wait, but how though? How can they view it?
I don't know. I was wondering that too. I wonder if like the hole wasn't filled in, so like it was just like in a hole, or maybe they like did it like inside in like a glass like aquarium. I don't know. I was thinking the same thing. I couldn't find an answer readily available to me.
Yeah, maybe she was just conning them.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, I am under this pile of dirt.
Yeah, maybe they were just looking at the dirt. I don't know. There was ice sitting, where competitors sat on blocks of ice and were paid $1 per minute that they could last. Other strange endurance competitions included gum chewing, kissing, rocking chair rocking, and dancing. In 1923, New York dance instructor Alma Cummings performed the waltz in an Upper Manhattan ballroom for 27 hours straight, cycling through an assortment of male partners.
Huh.
It's a long time.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm impressed.
Me too.
That's the most impressive thing, I think, out of all of these to me.
Oh, just you wait. So people were fascinated by this feat. Public dancing had only just become mainstream, so this performance was like tantalizing, exciting, a little bit sexy. People were into it, and they immediately wanted to keep this thing going. They were hungry for more dancing like this. Within 3 weeks of her record, it was broken at least 9 times by other people wanting to do this same thing.
9 times?
Alma started what became known as dance marathons.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. These are also called walkathons, Bundon derbies, and corn and callus carnivals. Gross.
Yeah.
And these are where people would compete to see who could dance the longest without stopping. Within months, records were broken almost daily. They rose from 56 hours to 69 to 82. And after that, 27-year-old Homer Morehouse danced for 87 hours straight before dropping dead from heart failure as a result.
Oh my God. I was not expecting the heart failure part.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say exhaustion.
No, he died because this shit is dangerous. Like, people were 82 hours. That's over 3 like days and nights dancing nonstop.
Yeah. I don't even know how you keep it up for, honestly, over an hour.
Yeah.
Knowing myself.
Truly. And I don't think it's like these people were not like extreme athletes. Like, they were, I think, mostly normal people who were not equipped.
Could they stop to get water?
They could eat and drink while they were dancing. Yeah.
Okay. That is absolutely insane, because I know my ass and my legs are sore as hell after we go out. And it's been a long time since I've been out and dancing, but I'm so sore, and that's after like probably an hour or 2.
For sure. Yeah, it was nuts. And so like this tragedy happened, and now the general public and the press were criticizing these dance marathons, labeling the trend the dancing plague, but their popularity, I kept wanting to say probability, even when I read these notes earlier, their popularity and profitability only continued to grow. In 1929, the stock market crashed and the Great Depression began. People were miserable, obviously, and more eager than ever to distract themselves from their reality with entertainment. This enabled dance marathons to bloom into their own industry. They typically operated like circuses. They'd move around from town to town, charging something like 25 cents for admission. And the cool thing about them was they were open for 24 hours as long as the competition went on. So you could kind of like party all night at the dance marathon. I don't think a lot of other places were open 24 hours. These competitions were also open for locals to enter. And this was really enticing for people because it was the Great Depression. So there were food shortages. You had a lot of food insecurity. But if you were part of these dance competitions, the company would feed you 7 to 12 times per day.
Wow.
And you had shelter over your head. So as long as you could last in the dance competition, you didn't have to worry about like staying alive, essentially.
That's so fucked up.
Yeah, it's really fucked up. The rules also began getting standardized at this time with their popularity. Typically, couples were given 15-minute rest every hour. So not bad. At least there's something.
Yeah.
Cots would be rolled out to the dance floor, or sometimes there were designated sleeping areas.
15 minutes is a long break, especially every hour on the hour. Not bad.
Yeah, it is a long break until you consider they were dancing for like months.
Yeah, that's true. I think I'm completely content with my 1 year of dancing and then 1 hour of dancing and then back to my year-long break cycle.
You said 1 year of dancing.
1 year of not dancing, I mean.
Oh, yes, me too. So these cots would be rolled out, or you'd go to a designated sleeping area, and contestants would get the chance to power nap or ice their feet. The sleeping areas were separated by sex because in these competitions, you'd have a male and female partner, and then obviously they can't sleep in the same area. That would be improper.
You can't waste any energy, doing anything else, dancing in the sheets.
That's right, dancing in the sheets. Female contestants who didn't wake up after 11 minutes were woken with smelling salts or they were slapped.
Oh.
And male contestants were usually dunked in ice water.
That's so rude.
It's very brutal. Like, it really was like sleep deprivation torture.
Yeah.
It was not pretty.
Sounds like they're treated like circus animals.
They are, 100%. I have a quote here about the sleeping situation of a 1928 Seattle dance marathon. Reporter Alice Eleanor says, quote, "Here in the half-light they lie, these sprawling, unconscious forms, their cots side by side, their clothing hung in listless disarray. A girl is sprawled, her lips moving in pain as she moans incoherently and jerks her hands. Bending over her is a man, her trainer apparently, who massages her swollen feet with some ointment. Beside her, another girl is lying, her mouth open to reveal her gold-crowned molars, while flies crawl across her closed eyes and buzz against her chin."
Ew. Oh,
so, like,
no.
It was pretty fucked up.
That's extremely fucked up.
Yeah. Because
I hate it.
Because now that they were giving them breaks, they could last longer. And these dance competitions would last sometimes up to 12 weeks. So imagine
12 weeks.
Yeah, 3 months of it, literally dancing all day, all night. I thought you were like frozen in shock, but it's just that your screen froze. I can't hear you. I'm gonna wait till you come back. Okay, there you are.
Okay, good. I know. Yeah. I was like, oh no, it's happening. It's finally giving out. No, okay. I am frozen in shock because that's awful.
It is awful. And I think when you first hear about it, you're like, oh, dance marathons, like, haha, that's cute. But the reason like they were able to thrive was because people were so fucking desperate in the Great Depression that they were willing to be like degraded and tortured like this just for food. Like, it's so awful.
Yeah.
Dancers still did their normal tasks like eating, bathing, shaving, writing letters, knitting, and reading the paper, but they did it all while dancing. In order to do some of these things, you might hang a mirror around your partner's neck so that you could like shave or fix your hair. They also had special desks that you could wear around your own neck. So you'd kind of like strap on a desk and then be able to, write a letter.
I need one of those.
Yeah, isn't that kind of cool? I like it.
Yeah, that is cool. My ADHD, I'd be thriving.
What if you like had a shirt that had like an airplane train table sewn onto it and you could just like unzip it and a table pops down?
Oh my gosh, I would spill so much shit though. That would be a disaster.
But it wouldn't matter because you just spill it on a table.
But I'd spill off the table is what would probably happen. Or I'd like bend over forgetting that I had a table attached to me and it would not go well.
I didn't think about the bending over part. You do that a lot. Just kidding.
I know. I'm always bending over.
So weird. She just can't stop. So like we just mentioned, this was brutal and exhausting work. Your feet would be covered in blisters. The dancers were also known to get so exhausted they would hallucinate. People from the time report like watching these dancers in their exhaustion and talking about how sometimes they looked to be in a coma. They would become hysterical, have delusions of persecution. They'd have imaginary conversations with themselves, grin vacantly, or snatch at things with their hands that weren't there. Like they would completely lose their minds.
Yeah, reasonably so.
Because they weren't sleeping for days.
Yeah. And I was wondering too, I don't know if you will touch on this, but the long-term effects, like after they're done dancing, what does dancing for 3 months at a time do to you physically and mentally? If they're doing that while dancing, that's gotta have some repercussions later too.
Yeah, I would imagine it might be you would maybe carry some trauma because like it's literally sleep deprivation torture, Yeah. And also just the embarrassment because, these were kind of used as a place for people to go like jeer at you while you're being degraded. So I can't imagine it's good. I don't have any like interviews from people who did this about the effect on them, but that's a really good question.
Yeah. What's that song? It's like, no, I'm never gonna dance again.
I don't know. Alec, do you know?
I don't know the next line, but
people might also fall asleep while dancing and their partner would have to catch them before their knees hit the floor because if your knees hit the floor, that's when you're disqualified. You might also tie your partner's wrists around your neck with a handkerchief in order to hold them up so that like they could kind of doze off and not fall.
Yeah, take a little nip nap.
A little nip nap. And you would do that. Like your partner could, I think as long as one of the couples was moved or one person in the couple was moving, the other one could kind of doze off. So you'd kind of like let them like slump against your shoulder and carry them.
Yeah, you can still sway.
Yeah, you can kind of keep things going. If a couple wasn't shuffling enough though, a judge would come up and like whip at their feet and ankles with a ruler.
Dude, there's a much easier way to get them participating fully in the competition again. You don't have to whip at their feet, right?
What's the easier way?
Well, wake up. You use the power of your voice. Turn up the music a little louder or disqualify them.
Yeah. But the company was making money the longer that they danced. So I think the goal was just to keep them going and going and going until they like fell on the floor from exhaustion.
Yeah.
And in extreme cases, couples were even dog chained together to keep them from drifting apart.
What?
But it was all worth it for the sweet, sweet prize money. Prize money was typically around $300, but could get up into the thousands. Whoa. And this could easily be more than a farmer's entire yearly income at this time. All you had to do was outlast all the other dancers. However, regular contestants usually didn't have a good chance of winning. And that's because the dance marathons usually employed professional dance marathoners who were planted in the competition.
That's so rude.
So rude.
I wonder if the dance competition professionals also had to work for the money or if they got paid just to be there to outlast the people.
They got paid like a salary, and they also got to keep the prize money if they won.
Wow.
And what would happen is I think usually they would have like a troupe of dancers, and you wouldn't dance in every marathon. When you weren't dancing, you might be playing or singing in the band or selling concessions. Like you'd kind of like get a break and you were still being paid. But these professional dancers were there to make competitions more competitive and more entertaining. They, like I said, you could make extra money by playing in the band. Some dancers were also sponsored. Local companies might pay them to wear a shirt with their brand name on it. Dancers could also sell autographs and postcards because like a lot of them gained a little following. There was usually live music for the contestants to dance to during peak hours. And then like at times like late at night when there weren't as many spectators, they'd use phonograph records. With competitions now lasting weeks and even months, new elements were added to keep these entertaining. Because, I mean, before they'd last like 50 hours and now they're lasting months. So you got to spice it up a little bit.
Yeah, seriously. I wonder, if you go back as someone watching this whole thing go down, if you have a wristband, like you can show them, I already paid the first time, or you probably had to keep paying each time you went to check in.
Yeah, I think every time you go in, you have to pay probably, but I mean, they're just raking in the money.
And you know what you could do?
What?
It would almost be smart for them to not make these dance halls open 24 hours, even as the like overlords of this whole competition, and just have it for, although 12 hours a day still sounds like a lot, but to just make it seem like these people are dancing for 3 months at a time, and then let them sleep so you can keep it going even longer. It's just a facade.
But then people would catch on and it wouldn't be a true dance competition. And like, if you're a dancer, you can dance 12 hours a day, like pretty much indefinitely. Like it would never end if they were allowed to have a 12-hour break. And you wouldn't get the drama of people like passing out and having to be carried off the floor and like hallucinating and shit.
Yeah, but if you get a group that you pay to all be in on it, then you can make the drama happen.
I guess, but also I think if they weren't open 24 hours, the people in the town would be like, well, they're probably not actually dancing for 24 hours, Like I think the spectators would catch on because these competitions, they weren't always in cities. A lot of times they'd go to small towns. And the thing you wanted to do was go to what they called a virgin town, which is a small town that has not yet hosted a dance marathon, because then like all the intrigue is still there and you make a lot more money because it's new and exciting. And so in a small town, like if they're not open 24 hours, I think most people would be like, well, this is like, they're faking us out,
Yeah, that's fair.
But anyway, so just trying to think of a way to make it less demoralizing.
Less awful, yeah.
Periodically, speaking of like more terrible, there'd be something called an elimination sprint or a grind. What this was like, so you'd be dancing normally, you just had to like kind of keep shuffling. And then like if things were going on too long and like not enough people were being eliminated, they'd do something where you'd have to like run circuits around the dance floor and like get super, super exhausted or like potentially trip.
Oh God, that's me in gym class.
Yeah. And a lot of times they'd blindfold you. They'd chain you together or you'd have to run backwards. And like these people were already awake for like days straight and then they'd have to do this. So
I can't.
Usually people would start falling at this point and then you'd be eliminated. At all these events, there was, I think, pretty much always a full medical staff, both for actual safety and also for the drama. Like it made things look more intense to have someone in like a lab coat there. Other entertainment included sketches, raffles, and mud racing. I think I meant to say mud wrestling. I think that's what they did. Sometimes there was even pole sitting at these dance competitions. Alvin Shipwreck Kelly, who we met at the beginning of the lesson, once sat on a pole for 22 days outside Madison Square Garden over the duration of a dance marathon. So
I forgot about him.
It all comes back. And some marathoners really became famous. Like a lot of times this kind of kickstarted their career into acting in cinema or being jazz singers. But some of them were content to just be famous dance marathoners, and they would develop these little like characters or personas about themselves that they'd like ham up on the dance floor. They were basically like actors in a soap opera because they would have like little like rivalries or love affairs with like other members of the dance troupe and like act them out in front of the crowd. Some couples like made kind of like a little career of traveling town to town, basically like following the dance marathon circuit, and they would enter competitions, pretend to meet on like during the competition on the dance floor, pretend to like fall in love and get engaged on the dance floor, all in front of the crowd. And then they would have a fake wedding on the dance floor during the dance competition and make money by like getting like wedding gifts from the crowd of spectators.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
And sometimes these weddings were real.
I love that. They're hamming it up. I'm into that.
Yeah, they were just hustling. And like people were into it too. The audience wasn't fully being conned because most of them knew that the competition was heavily staged. That didn't matter though, because what these competitions offered was escapism. It was like reality TV. You could watch people's love story and drama and get lost in the fantasy. Carol Martins, who wrote Dance Marathons, A History of This Phenomenon, said, quote, "Dance marathons presented life lived as theater. Spectators simultaneously believed and disbelieved. It was a position of Bertolt Brecht would have appreciated, the enjoyment of an aesthetic and phenomenon only partly masked as a real-life event." So there was very clearly like elements of reality and a lot of like exaggeration, much like reality TV.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, isn't it fun? And it was kind of like this part sort of reminds me of like American Idol. Like couples would like be interviewed while they're dancing and they'd get to kind of tell their story. And sometimes it would be like, you know, my like dad done, I'm trying to make him proud, or like I'm trying to like save up for an engagement ring for like my fiance. Like just like kind of like stories that tug at your heartstrings, and then you can root for your favorite couple. 75% of attendees were women because this was like a soap opera. And you could also watch people, like not only can you watch people's like love lives and drama, but you could also watch them be fucking miserable. They were sweaty, blistered, passing out from exhaustion. And watching this might make you feel better about your own living situation, being that it was the fucking Great Depression. It made you feel superior watching other people struggle.
Oh man, that's true though.
It is
sometimes you know, reality TV shows, they just make you feel like you're on top of the world no matter what your situation might be.
Yeah, they make you feel better about your own relationships, like that you're not like as like so dramatic like as these people, you know.
Yeah.
It's a tale as old as time, like we said.
Apparently, yeah.
So Callum DeViller, who is a hairdresser from Minnesota, started marathon dancing before the Great Depression. A 1928 marathon pamphlet reported that he, quote, knocked folks stiff at Brainerd, Minnesota when he wobbled about the floor for 443 hours. In 1932, he found himself unemployed and recruited his landlord's daughter, Vonnie Kuczynski, to go with him to a Boston suburb of Somerville and walk for a walkathon. And a lot of times these dance marathons would be branded as walkathons to like make them seem a little like less scandalous. Together, they danced in a dance hall from December until June. During the final 2 weeks of the competition, the hourly breaks were cut from 15 minutes to 3.
That's not even a break.
No, for 2 weeks, they literally only had 3 minutes per hour, so they did not sleep. During the final 52 hours of the competition, competitors danced nonstop. So they didn't even have breaks for the last 52 hours.
Yeah, they get to a point and they're like, okay, somebody has to win. This has literally been going on for 6 months.
Yeah. It's
like we could have a preterm baby born and they would survive.
Yeah, what if you like got pregnant the first day of the dance competition and then you like had your baby on the dance floor the last day?
Apparently it's possible. Hopefully you would win. I think that's an automatic win.
I would hope so. So ultimately, DeViller and Kaczynski outlasted everyone and won the $1,000 prize. This was a highly popular event, and late night, like out of town foot traffic started to like annoy people, you know, and caused lawmakers to outlaw dance competitions in this area before the event was even over. So by now, it's becoming like a nuisance in a lot of places because they're open 24 hours and they bring in so much tourism. Cities are kind of over it. The city of Boston had already outlawed dance marathons after the death of Homer Morehouse. And Boston was not alone. A lot of cities were doing this. Seattle passed an ordinance in 1928 outlawing dance marathons after the attempted suicide of a woman who had completed a 19-day competition only to get 5th place. So I think that kind of maybe answers your question of earlier about like the effect of this on your psyche. Because I mean, going through that for 19 days and then not winning, like and like I feel like it probably puts you in a really fragile mental state.
That's devastating.
Yeah. Being like driven to that point of exhaustion.
Absolutely.
In 1934, the American Social Hygiene Association asked police chiefs around the country to ban endurance dance contests. One of the main opposers to dance competitions were movie theater owners who were losing revenue because of them. Churches and women's groups objected for moral reasons. So exhausted couples would often be holding each other up, which these groups labeled, quote unquote, full body hugging and deemed it indecent. So they're like, this is not okay.
Is this like the root that led to almost that satanic panic? Like, you can't dance. What is that movie? Footloose? That type of thing?
I mean, maybe that didn't come up in here, but like, it was also like public dancing was kind of a new thing in the 1920s. Like before that, like it was like you especially wouldn't be like holding each other while you're dancing. So like it was still scandalous, but I mean, this is kind of overboard. This, though, I agree with. These groups also objected on a humanitarian level, believing it was wrong to charge money to watch people be degraded, which, that part makes sense.
Definitely.
Police also didn't like them as they brought extra, activity to a location, sometimes resulting in increases in criminal behavior. By the late 1930s, dance marathons had fallen out of fashion. They were banned in many places, and where they weren't banned, they were usually discouraged. Then World War II really put an end to them when the country was sent to war and to work. So now no one was even available to compete.
Yeah, they're like, go ahead and dance on over, skip across the pond and go to war.
People had more important things to do than dance for 3 weeks. In the 1960s, though, walkathons and dance marathons resurfaced. They started becoming popular again, but they look very different now. Now they're fundraisers for charity and usually last between 12 and 24 hours. So you might have seen the iconic episode of Gilmore Girls where they have a dance marathon.
Yes, of course.
And this episode is called They Shoot Gilmores, Don't They? And I always thought that was like a weird title, but the episode was named after a 1935 novel about a dance marathon called They Shoot Horses, Don't They? And so that's where that comes from. Little fun Gilmore fact for you.
The writers of Gilmore Girls are geniuses. They're constantly making these like jokes and comments. I feel like every other line, I probably get 5% of the things that they say that are actually built into the script because they're geniuses.
Yeah, and it's so fast. Like, there's room for so many jokes. It's just amazing. And just like to expand on the fun fact just a little bit, this book was made into a movie in 1969. So there you go.
Nice.
And that was my lesson on dance marathons.
Wow. I just love learning about these things that start as a random ass thing that completely evolves and grows into something unrecognizable, I would say. That was so cool.
Thank you. And humans are just so weird. Like, we always find ways to be cruel and weird. And I feel like this is a perfect illustration of that. All right, so my sources are an article on historylink.org called Dance Marathons of the 1920s and 30s by Paula Becker, an atlasobscura.com article called The Grim Depression Era Origins of Dance Marathons by Katie Thornton, a Guardian.com article called Bop Till You Drop, The Staggering True Stories Behind American Dance Marathons by Lindy Winship, messychic.com, which is a blog by someone named Messy Nessie. And the post on her blog is called The Mad 1920s Fad of Pole Sitting. And then I have an article on sbsun.com called The Age of Endurance by Mark Landis. And that was my lesson.
Great job.
Thank
you really
you.
read some stuff and talked. And
I did. I read some stuff. And I want to thank everyone who made it through this episode. I hope that once it's been edited, it wasn't too choppy. We're doing our best. And thank you for getting to the end. Thank you for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on your podcast listening app of choice. Leave us a 5-star rating and review. Tell your friends, follow us on social media, and keep listening. We love you. And 3, 2, 1.
Class dismissed. Nailed it.